Wilder Show podcast. Welcome. Glad you're here. Hello, Lauren. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Oh, good. I'm sorry. That's Lauren. I'm Scott. Mm-hmm. And this is the Wilder Show podcast. And thanks for being here. If you want to send us email is podcast@wildershow.com. It's podcast@wildershow.com. The Wilder Show podcast drops on Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. Central Time, Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. Like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share. Well, Karmelo Anthony, we got to talk about that story. I mean, we have to, right? It's a big story in our part of the world. Mm-hmm. This is the kid, the twin Metcalf, that was stabbed to death at a track meet in Frisco.
Right.
Happened at Kirkendall Stadium. Touch me, see what happens. And apparently Metcalf touched him and he pulled a knife out and killed him.
Yeah.
Karmelo Anthony raised almost $500,000 in the other one, not GoFundMe, but another one. It is so backwards, it's unbelievable. And we are through the friggin' looking glass on this stuff. The bad guys get the attention and the help and the support. I don't get it. It's a tragic story all around, but it makes it more tragic when you have this thing where the bad guys benefit. Now, he's not eligible for the death penalty. He also can't get life without the possibility of parole because he's 17 years old. I would like for the death penalty to be an option for the prosecutors. Sure, absolutely. And the way we do things in this country, which I understand, does not include that as an option for this murderer. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying, I think it would be a good idea if, along with all the other murderers, this murderer was at some risk of losing his life because of what he did. We have ways that we do things in this country. Mm-hmm. That is not an option for this particular person, nor is life without the possibility of parole. And I wish that it were.
It's tragic. It's tragic for the family that lost their son. Just I can't. We just talked about this the other day. You send your kids to school every day, and something like this would never cross your mind. A kid who's a straight A student, captain of the track team, goes to school, track meet day. You never see him again.
Yeah, and I think the person that takes that person away should be given a maximum penalty. That should be an option for the person that does the dastardly deed. And that person is, by his own admission, Karmelo Anthony. Governor Gavin Newsome, California, would like a bailout of his state because there's a problem there with Medicaid. The Medicaid bailout. You know, part of the reason why they have a problem with the $2.8 billion Medicaid scenario in California is because they gave that to illegals.
Right. This
is what we talked before. A mistake that is made in a state, it'd be easy to say, well, that's them. That's California. I mean, if they want to, put their state down the crapper, that's for them to decide. That's for them. It doesn't matter. And we've always said, yeah, but you got to know that if they come around for the bailout, that's coming out of everybody's pocket.
Everybody will be responsible.
That's not coming out just. So on Monday this week, Newsom signed legislation to close the budget gap in the state's Medicaid services. It ensures that 15 million people will be taken care of through June. It's part of a plan to fix a $6.2 billion gap in the Medicaid budget. And it is not lost on many people that he bankrupts the system by giving $10 billion in free health care to illegal immigrants. Who is entitled to health care under Medicaid? Well, that is a good question.
Yeah.
But should it go to people that are in the country illegally? This is that whole sanctuary state. Mm-hmm. Now, we don't care. We take care of all people. That's how much we love people. We're taking care of everyone. Yeah, with whose money are you taking? It's unbelievable. State Representative Carl DeMaio, who's a Republican, said he's bankrupted the program by giving $10 billion in free health care to illegal immigrants. And there's strong evidence he, meaning Gavin Newsom, illegally tried to get federal Medicaid reimbursements. He wants a bailout, and the bailout is because they opened their system to illegals. As much as I would like it to be different, I'd love it to be the case. Hey, you know what? I live in the great state of Texas. Mm-hmm. I don't care what they do in California. Do whatever you want to do in California. Doesn't affect me. And by the way, if you leave California, don't come here and bring those values here. You take them somewhere else, but we don't want you to bring your ideas that are killing your state and bring them here. Want to come and be a Texan? Come and become a Texan. That'd be great. We welcome all people. We don't care what you believe. We don't care what you think. We don't care who you love. To come and be a part of Texas. That's cool. But don't bring that stuff that is killing that state to this state. I'll give you a good example of that. New Hampshire. New Hampshire used to be a very good conservative state.
Right.
It is right next to, I'm sure you remember from geography class, it's right next to Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. Massachusetts, era Kennedys. The Massachusetts, that state, quite liberal.
Right.
So what happens is, and it's hard maybe for us to think about in Texas, that there are states that are so close together because all states are equally close together on the border, but in terms of being small states, you can drive 2 hours and cross 3 states.
Sure.
So you can have, for example, you can work in Massachusetts and decide you'd really rather now live in New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And so, because New Hampshire has different laws, different tax structure, different, et cetera, et cetera. And we would say that it's good in New Hampshire because of those, we would say, conservative values and conservative policies regarding taxes and things like that. So you go and you mess up Massachusetts, and then you say, you know what? We love Massachusetts, but we think we're going to go ahead and move into New Hampshire. And then they move into New Hampshire, and they take those values with them into New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a vastly different place today than it was 10, 15 years ago. And that is because of exactly what we're talking about.
Because of that migration.
Yeah. So we say you want to come from California, you want to come from New Jersey, New York, wherever, come to Texas, come to Florida, go to Arizona, go to these conservative states. That's fantastic. But don't bring those things that messed up those states here. That's not okay.
Right.
We don't think that's a good idea. So when we talk about California or any state, it'd be easy to hear a rant about what they're doing up in New York or up in New Jersey or over in California. And why are you talking about that? Why do you care about that? Let them mess up their state. Who cares about them? We should all care about it. I don't expect them to be like us, but don't do something that's going to kill the state to the extent that we're on the hook. Mm-hmm. Remember the housing problem and the loans that never should have been made and the bailout that took place?
I do.
Everybody was on the hook. And the ripple effect of that, it affected all manner of industries. Mm-hmm. If you lost your job in 2007, 2008, 2009, really largely 2008 and 2009, you didn't have to work for a lending institution or a financial institution to have been affected by those things. It affected everybody. The ripple, not to mix metaphors, but the dominoes may be falling in another room or another part of the gymnasium, but it's because of what happened in that one sector that impacted everybody. Mm-hmm. Just some facts. In 2024, the state, California, projected that as many as 700,000 people who lived in California, 700,000 who were in the country illegally, could receive coverage from that program as administered in California. They were so proud of this. Mm-hmm. Look how good we are. Look how much we care about people. Originally, it was projected that it would cost the state about $3.1 billion and was a way for Democrats to move closer to providing Californians with universal health care. You see how this all fits together? So Republicans in the state, of course, have criticized Newsom's coverage of immigrants in the plan. He said, scaling back is really not on my docket. So well, why would it be on your docket? If somebody else is going to bail you out, why would you ever do the right thing?
Just spend.
Just keep doing the wrong thing. Keep doing the wrong thing, and somebody from a conservative state will end up being on the hook for your nonsense. Anyway, Gavin Newsome, we'll see more about that. I will say that if he plans to run for president, if he wants to be president, he's going to have to figure this out. Mm-hmm. You can't have this be one of the things that people talk about you if you're planning to run for president.
Well, is that really true, though? I mean, if he's going to run as a Democrat,
maybe.
Would that really bother?
Well, I mean, if you look at the things recently that he's done, when he's talking, you say kind of move to the middle on this and move to the middle on that. What was it you most recently did that I said Gavin Newsome wants to run for president? There were a couple of different things.
That was about keeping trans kids from playing
it was about
sporting teams at the
he agreed,
elementary, middle, and high school level.
Yeah, he agreed that boys should not play in girls' sports. So he agreed with that. Yeah. But that was a significant step.
It was, and it might make him less popular with his Democratic Party, but it's not like it's not like it turned him into a Republican.
No,
like that.
That's true. But I mean, I think we were talking about seeking a bailout. If you're going to come and be the president of the United States, you have to look at especially what you did as a governor,
right?
And if what you did as a governor, if you were behind the idea of 700,000 people that are in the country illegally, let me say it a different way, they should not be in the country. Those are 700,000 people in California that should be out. They shouldn't even be here. And you're going to give them health care? It is, in some cases, a zero-sum game.
Yeah.
You're giving them health care and keeping it from someone else, or you're giving them health care and somebody has to pay for it. Remember we were on the radio, did the show, and we had a woman call, and she was talking about how she had 3 babies at Parkland Hospital. And we were talking about something, and she said, it was no big deal. I went to Parkland and I had a baby, and I didn't have to pay a thing.
It didn't cost me anything.
It didn't cost me anything. I think my immediate response to her was, yeah, you know why? Because it cost the rest of us. You didn't pay, but that doesn't mean it was free.
Right.
Because you didn't pay. Because 700,000 that are in the country illegally that should not even be in the country got free health care under Medicaid doesn't mean it was free. It was paid for by somebody, and that somebody is us. I don't mind having my money go to that, but I don't want it to go to illegal people in the country. Medicaid is not intended. You know, people talk about we don't want to be the police of the world. Do we want to be the hospital of the world?
Yeah.
Just come on in. We'll pay for everything. Well, you know what, California, then you guys pay for it, and then you guys have to pay for what you paid for. We shouldn't have to pay and bail you out. So we'll see how this all plays out, but it's maddening to see, and we have to pay attention to it.
On a much smaller scale, you'll be happy to know that it is safe to cross the street again in 3 California cities. You and I have experienced this. It's not that the traffic signals were disabled, but they have these talk boxes that they tell you when it's time to stop, when you're supposed to stay back, stay back, stay back, and when it's time to walk. In 3 California cities earlier this week, Redwood City, Menlo Park, and Palo Alto in particular, those boxes were hacked. And instead of the usual pedestrian alerts, they were playing clips of 2 voice impersonators who were pretending to be, one was Mark Zuckerberg, one was Elon Musk. And when you pressed the button, while you were waiting for your turn to cross, one of them said, "Hi, this is Mark Zuckerberg, but real ones call me the Zuck. It's normal to feel uncomfortable or even violated as we forcefully insert AI into every facet of your conscious experience. And I just want to assure you, you don't need to worry because there's absolutely nothing you can do to stop it. Anyway, see ya." So that went on for just a little while until authorities could get a hold on it and change it back to what it was supposed to be. A Palo Alto city spokesperson said that it was 12 crosswalks in her city were found to be affected.
That's funny.
The voiceover systems have since been disabled. She said it was an isolated incident, and Redwood City deputy manager wanted to remind the public that tampering with city infrastructure, including crosswalk signals, is unlawful and it poses a safety risk.
Yeah, no, of course.
So I don't think anybody's safety was actually put in jeopardy during this little escapade. But just somebody having a good time and maybe took it a little too far.
Under the category of be careful what you wish for, and look at this whole thing with Harvard University. Yeah. Harvard University is saying, hey, we're going to move forward with what we believe, and we're going to do what we want to do. And the president's saying, well, if you do what you want to do regarding these other things that we've talked about before, we're going to take away your funding. We're going to take away your government funding. Now, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with taking away government funding. It's a private university. Let them do what they want to do. If you want to have only this kind of person to be allowed to be admitted there, if you want to have this kind of person be a professor, if you only want to have this kind of curricula there, that's okay. I have no problem. You're a private university. Do whatever you want to do. However, we don't think taxpayer funds should have to go there. Well, the next step, and this is where I think you have to be careful. Be careful what you wish for. The Internal Revenue Service is making plans and considering rescinding the tax-exempt status of Harvard University. According to sources, they say familiar with the matter. Now, that would be a huge step and huge retaliation as the administration is trying to turn up pressure on the university. Now, maybe it is a negotiation tactic. Maybe they're saying, hey, we're going to rescind your tax-exempt status. But the final decision on the rescinding of the tax-exempt status is actually expected soon as of this sitting. It has not happened yet. And whenever it happens, if it happens, it's going to be challenged in the courts. Right. There's no question about that. But I bring it up, and I'll explain this in a second. The administration already, blocked more than $2 trillion in funding from Harvard University. And it's the whole, policy demands, and, you can't do this. And what is the constitutional protection, the right of a private university to determine their own teaching practices? Can you do this? Can you do that? So Trump gets on his social whatever, and he says perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status and be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, terrorist-inspired, supporting sickness. Remember, tax-exempt status is totally contingent on acting in the public interest. That's what he posted on Truth Social this week. Now, do you know any other tax-exempt organizations that you want to make sure if we have in the future some other administration? Your church.
Sure.
Your church is a tax-exempt. And what we don't want to be fearful. I mean, the churches would say it is our free speech. They would say it's a religious, exemption. Mm-hmm. And I think that's proved to be defensible in court, that we are not going to do this because this is our religious, it violates our religious conscience or whatever. However, you get another administration in there and say, you know what? Here's what we think we're going to do. We've kind of been watching these churches. We see that a lot of them are kind of like businesses. I mean, they got schools and bookstores and all kinds of different things and publishing arms and all this.
And we don't really like what you're teaching.
And they refuse to teach the stuff that we think they should teach. So we're going to take away their tax-exempt status. Now, that probably will never happen, but it will have a muzzling effect. There'll be many churches that will say, you know what? We probably shouldn't even deal with this kind of stuff. Let's just not talk about it. So it may not be a thing where churches would, number one, lose their tax-exempt status, though I think I would never say never. You just don't know. I mean, if Bernie Sanders gets in there, or Bernie Sanders, he probably not, he's past his prime in that, but the AOC and the different people, they would say, look, there's a vast untapped wealth in taxing these churches. They have 200-acre campuses. They have buildings that are worth X amount of money. They bring in this kind of money. We're going to tax those entities. We may not want to do it. And in fact, if it came up, churches would say, hey, free speech, free speech, free speech. We're private, free speech. We're not a public accommodation. We're a private organization. Well, that's what Harvard says. So I don't want to go down the road so far beyond simply taking away federal funds. Taking away federal funds, I think, is, some people say it should not happen. I respect that. But that is one thing that people of goodwill can disagree about. But taking away the tax-exempt status of a private university, I just think that puts people at risk. What about your private Christian university? What about Liberty University? Let's just take churches out of it. Let's say Liberty University or John Brown University, or what's the other one? Bob Jones University. You have these Christian universities, and they hold positions on a lot of stuff that a Democrat or a liberal president would say, you know what, that school should not be teaching that. They shouldn't be free to say that and get federal funds and keep their tax-exempt status. So I would say be careful sort of what you wish for. It can feel good and right. And, I'm the strong bully right now when our side or your side is in charge. For example, ask people if they believe in prayer in school. And most people, most conservatives, most Christians will say absolutely. When everything went to hell in a handbasket, when we took the 10 Commandments out of the school and when we banned prayer in the public school. We need prayer back in the public school. I see that hand. I hear that amen. But everybody thinks that when you're praying to frankly, the blue-eyed white Jesus, when you're praying to my God, it's all cool. We think we should have it. But if you open it up, just allow that in some communities, you see there's a push in a certain part of Plano right now for a different faith system. That's
in American communities.
In American communities. Yeah. And what about those schools? What about, do you want the kids in those schools to be subjected to prayers to a God that you believe is not a God? Is that okay? They have to go through the kinds of things you might go through at a madrasa. You want kids to have to learn about Allah or whatever that you may disagree with. So I just say be careful. It's good to have some separation, and banning it is one thing. We don't ban prayer in school. It just can't be orchestrated and led by the entity itself, and that's not a bad thing. We shouldn't be worried about that. Now, if it were banned, that'd be one thing. If you had kids, no, you can't pray in school. You can't witness to your friends in school. That's not banned. It may not be encouraged, or it may in fact be discouraged, but it's not banned. So, in the same way, you just got to be careful. You may say, yeah, let's take away Harvard's money and let's kill their tax exempt status. That may seem like the right thing to do, but if it's a different president, a different administration with different priorities, and they come after you and they come after your church and they say, or your private university, they say that private university should lose its tax exempt status. I think we just have to be careful when it goes that far. And that's just what I think about that. Oh, it is time now for Scattershoot.
Let's go.
Wilder Show, Scattershoot. It's the, what is it, Lauren? It's the purple section. It's the today section. It's the kitchen drawer.
Well, that you went a little too far. I was going to say the fun section.
The fun section, okay.
But the kitchen drawer,
not
sometimes
so
that just gives me anxiety because it starts out as one thing and it just gets to be this.
Okay. All right, I like that.
Is out of control that I don't even like to open because I don't know. Yeah.
All right, let me tell you one interesting thing as we look back on this week. It was the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Of course, was on the 14th of April,
right,
in 1865. And so I don't think we didn't talk about that on the music station at all. We didn't bring it up, there wasn't enough time there to talk about this other part that I thought was really, really interesting because I hadn't forgotten about it. I just wasn't a time to talk about it. Do you remember? Let's go back in time for news commentators or the news. What do you call them? The anchors.
Yeah.
If you think of the one CBS anchor that is sort of the I Ching of anchors that we all grew up, and that's the way it is. It was
Walter Cronkite.
That's right. And when Walter Cronkite left,
mm-hmm.
they were looking for who would replace him.
Right.
And there were lots of people that were up for that job. Do you know where I'm going? You have a look on your face like you think I'm going where I'm going.
I'm trying to remember if I know for sure. I mean, okay. I know who sat in that seat for a long time after him, but I can't remember if he directly replaced him or not, or if there was some. Yeah,
it was
Dan Rather.
Dan Rather replaced. He came on after Walter Cronkite retired. And he said, "Well, that's semi interesting." But the story, the real story, this ties into the anniversary on April 14th, is it might not have been Dan Rather. There was another guy in the running to come in right after Walter Cronkite.
And who was that?
It was Roger Mudd.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember Roger Mudd?
Yeah.
Okay. Roger Mudd was the guy that was supposed to come in and be the replacement. the follow-up. What do you call it?
The successor.
Yeah, the successor, exactly. The successor. And so Roger Mudd was going to be that guy.
Okay.
And there was, talk around CBS. Should it be that guy? Should it not be that guy? I don't know. There was a big thing that happened when I can't remember the year, but Ted Kennedy was asked, why do you want to run for president? And it was an interview with Roger Mudd. And man, Kennedy did not give an answer, and he flubbed his way through it. And for years after that, they would talk about any politician that didn't have an answer ready. They would call that a Roger Mudd moment. That it was so famous as a good question that had no good response from the interviewee that it became a Roger Mudd moment. Anyway, so Cronkite was going away. They're trying to figure out who they were going to get. They had lots of different choices, and one of them was Dan Rather, and one of them was Roger Mudd. And among the things that was considered was his lineage.
Okay.
Dr. Samuel Mudd is a guy that was sent to prison for conspiracy with John Wilkes Booth. Right. Because after John Wilkes Booth shot Abraham Lincoln, he jumped down on the stage. Remember, he broke his leg. Well, it was Dr. Samuel Mudd that treated the broken leg of John Wilkes Booth.
Right.
And there was some thought inside of CBS that can we really have, a descendant of a traitor?
Wasn't he? Isn't that where the saying, "Your name is Mudd"?
Actually, a lot of people think that, but that saying was actually before. It was in the 1820s is when that saying began.
Okay.
But it certainly took on more after that.
Gotcha.
But anyway, so in thinking about this last week and the assassination of President Lincoln, it just made me think of Roger Mudd. That he could have been the guy.
How would you have felt about that? I mean, so we were much younger then. If Roger Mudd had been named the successor to Walter Cronkite, wouldn't have bothered you that he had that in his family tree?
And he's actually a collateral descendant. In other words, he's not a direct. It was like his great granddad was the guy that set the leg. It was like somebody's uncle or sort of a peripheral. They shared the name, but they were related.
Yeah,
but it wasn't like he was a direct descendant of that.
That's it. It sort of seems like almost like our version today of being canceled for something that you had absolutely nothing to do with.
Yeah. Now here's the thing: as soon as he was passed over, he immediately left and he went to work for NBC.
Yeah,
and then he ended up, for part of the time he hosted, I think, Meet the Press. He had a great career there at NBC. But I just thought that the Samuel Mudd. So think about this, kids. What you do today impacts not just you, maybe not just your kids. It could impact people way down the line from you, and that such was the case for Roger Mudd. It's like, wow, dang, I could have been the guy that took. And so it wasn't him, and it turned out to be Dan Rather, and the rest, as they say, is history.
Have you ever thought about what it means to be charming?
Sometimes we think of it. Most times we don't even think about it.
I've thought before, that person is really charming. This person is really charming.
Thank you.
When I get to the list, you'll see that this is not a part of it. This is.
Oh, this I'm playing.
I do.
Yeah,
I do. I don't think I've ever really thought of what it means, though.
To be charming?
Like, if somebody is charming, what does that mean? How would I define it?
Okay, well, you want to talk about that for a second?
That is attractive, not physically attractive necessarily, but someone who has an attractive personality or is...
maybe.
There are some things, actually, that go into being charming.
Being charming. But is charming something, and I really mean, is charming something you can aspire to or try to be, or isn't it?
Yes.
Or isn't it more likely something that you just are?
It might be something that you just are.
Does it take something away from it if you're calculatedly charming? In other words, I'm going to go into this group of people and I'm going to do this and it's going to have this reaction. Isn't that sort of the opposite of being charming?
Yes, it is. And I don't think anybody could really carry on like that for very long. It would be hard to fake it for a long time. But I think if you were looking to improve yourself, if somebody wanted to, I mean, people try to do that all the time, right?
Okay.
You might see an area of weakness in your life and think, I could do better with that.
Okay.
And then really, really try to change yourself.
Well, I have several thoughts, but I'll
We'll save them. We might they might come up while we talk about what it takes to be charming,
All right,
what
go
it
ahead.
means to be charming.
So what does it mean? You're saying what does it mean to be charming?
So the first sign of a charming person is someone who, now don't get bogged down in the language, because it's kind of a buzzy word right now, and I don't want you to get stuck on that.
Okay.
Somebody who embraces authenticity.
Okay, authenticity.
All that really means
Okay.
is they
not
are
fake.
themselves.
Yeah.
They're not fake.
They're
and
comfortable
quite-
in their own skin.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. Another
I
way
like
that you might describe that is someone with a quiet ego.
Okay. All
Okay,
right.
so they're not all about
Okay.
themselves. They're interested in other people
Okay.
as much as they are interested in. They're not only interested
Right.
in themselves, in their own accomplishments.
They're interested as opposed to trying to be interesting.
Exactly, which
Okay.
leads us to number 2,
Okay.
which comes through. It shows that you are interested in other people when you remember their names, remember details about their lives. That you're not, and obviously, if you can't remember that about people, maybe
Right.
you've only met once or twice before. But if you are interested in people, chances are you will find those things out about them. You'll talk to somebody, you'll get their name, you'll find out what they do for a living, what they like or what they're interested in, and then you'll remember it the next time that you meet with them. And then you might bring up those things before you start going on and on and on about what is interesting to you or what you've been up to.
I'm not good at remembering names.
Yeah.
That's not a good. It doesn't mean I don't care, but I'm just really not good at remembering names. Now there are people that are good at remembering names.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people that would be very good at that. They've developed a little, is it pneumatic, whatever it is,
Yeah.
device where they can remember certain things. But they're not very charming people. They just have developed that ability to do it. I'll give you an example. A great salesperson. Right? A great salesperson has developed certain characteristics that might seem like they are remembering
Sincerity?
it.
I can fake that.
Sincerity, I can fake that. I'm not saying that just because they remember that doesn't mean that somebody is really. They say it's a trick, sort of. Which, but it's for business, and so you do it. You and I were at a place, I don't know, Orlando or someplace on business, and there was a guy that I hadn't seen in, 2 decades maybe. And we're walking through this little snack shop. And if you'd asked me to remember the guy's name, there is no way I could have remembered it out of the blue. But something about his face, it triggered. And I said, Carter Wade.
So you did remember his name.
I did, but it was the face that triggered it.
Yeah.
And I'm just not good at it. It's only I don't want to be punished. I'm just not great at remembering all names.
Well, I think that's okay. I think don't worry, there's still room for you to be charming.
All right, go ahead.
I don't think that it depends solely on your memory. I think you can be really genuinely interested in people. And we're not talking about in a salesy kind of way either, where people have tricks to remember people's names.
Okay.
You can be interested in people. You can be positive about people, being curious about people and being a good listener. That's half of this. You don't have to remember somebody's name. I think there's a lot to be said for walking up to somebody and saying, "Hey, I know you and I can't remember your name and I'm so sorry, but how do we know each other?" I mean, that's I think that there's so much value in that.
Well, one of the Wilderisms, of course, is listening is more than waiting for your turn to talk.
It is.
And that is, I think, a big part. You're not just waiting to do your thing and bowl people over with your charm.
Yeah.
You're actually interested in them.
People are really receptive to someone that they know is genuinely interested in them. You will get a lot of charm points for that. Okay. Okay,
All
so
right.
tuck that one away. Remember, it's not about how well you can remember people's names just, because you're filing them away.
Right.
It's how interested you are
All right,
in them.
got it.
Okay, another one is you make people laugh.
Yeah. Check. All right. Number 4.
Self-deprecating humor
check.
in particular
Check.
is really is powerfully charismatic.
Can I give a story about that? Go ahead. It's charismatic.
Yeah, it makes people feel comfortable. It appeals to their own insecurities, but you have to be careful about the jokes that you make too. You might not want to be too personal.
That's correct.
So you gotta it's not without risk. You've gotta do it well. Go ahead.
When you need someone's help.
Yeah.
And when you can talk self-deprecation. Look, can I just be totally honest, just totally frank?
Yeah.
Women are sick of guys who feel like they know everything. And when you have a woman, when you're traveling, the women that encounter people who travel and those people are men, they don't have good experiences often with those people who feel like they should be super served or I'm a man or whatever. So when you need help and you have someone who is in a position to help you and they happen to be a woman, when you show as a guy, when you show a vulnerability, like you're up here and I'm down here, and when they say, "How may I help you?" and you say, "I hope so," and you really sort of just let it tumble out how you need their help. My experience is over the years is people will be overly helpful and they will be glad to do it.
Yeah.
And that's, I know you're looking at me like it's,
well, no,
like it's
there's a lot to unpack here.
Okay. Look, I've been places before where I've seen guys say, look, I'm really busy. Basically they're saying I'm really important. I have to be in Portland by noon and I got to get on a flight and your job is to help me get on a flight. That is not a way to get somebody to help you. The way to get somebody to help you is to say, I don't know, I just need your help.
Yeah.
Anything you can do would be great.
Yeah.
So I'm not kidding about it. It's just I've found a way to talk to people that I need their help. If they end up being happy to help, everybody wins.
Well, yeah, I think if you're kind to people when you need their help, that's better than being bossy when you need their help.
All right, so I'm only kind.
And one other thing. You said something about, women are tired of men who know everything and who think they know everything. Right, I don't know that I think there is something really nice about a man who is capable of keeping track of his own stuff too.
It is
and doesn't walk up to the counter and just dump all their stuff on the counter and say, "Is this the plane I'm supposed to be on?"
Okay.
I think there is something. Maybe it's a balance. Maybe it's a balance. There's there's a healthy middle.
Perhaps it's about whoever might be one of those two categories. When you do it, it's not charming at all. But if that person were vulnerable, I would think that is very...
No, vulnerable. See, that's completely different. We're getting way off track here.
Right.
Vulnerability, I think, is something completely different. The last one here, though, is being welcoming and smiling at people. The quickest way to make somebody feel comfortable, which is kind of about, of what being charming, really, truly charming is. Smile, welcome them, make somebody feel like you're glad to see them. They'll feel accepted and they'll feel liked, and you'll come off as the friendly, warm person that you are.
Well, as we have, we were just as part of our job. Sometimes we're on Zoom calls, right?
Yes.
Too many of these things, but got off one just the other day. We clicked off the thing, and I said, See how people who don't know me would think I'm very nice? Doesn't it seem like I didn't say charming, but doesn't it seem like it was all went very well? But it fits into the other wilderism of why ruin the illusion of who I am with the reality of me? Why ruin the illusion of who I am with the reality of me? If we've never met and you like me, then let's just keep it that way.
That's not being charming, though.
I don't want to. Yeah, but I'm just saying, but there's a chance that I could mess it up. And if you've seen before the power of my absence,
just step out and take a risk.
Real quick,
big smile.
Let me turn to the audience.
Big smile.
Let me turn to the audience real quick. See, that was number 3. Make them laugh.
Very good.
Check.
You're right. You're right. I have something else for
Yeah.
you that's going to, I think it's going to really hit you where you're living right now as a new grandfather, the new pops that you are. This is from a piece in The Atlantic, and it turns out grandparents are grandparenting harder than ever. Now, especially grandmothers, but not only grandmothers. Listen to this. A 2022 survey found that nearly 60% of grandmothers had provided childcare for a grandkid. More than 40% saw a grandchild in person at least weekly.
Wow.
And a 2023 Harris poll found that more than 40% of working parents relied on their kids' grandma for childcare. And nearly 70% of those parents said that they might have lost their job without that grandmother's help.
I believe that. I think grandmas I cheer all the grandmas on who are doing all that. I think it's great. And honestly, there are some things that grandmas can do that pops can't do, that granddads can't do. We're not built, emotionally or otherwise the way you guys are. And that doesn't mean I'm not being lazy about it. I'm just saying that there are some things I've come to appreciate of your kind. That I'm not equipped to emotionally or otherwise to do that like you can. So that's okay.
And I'm just curious. I mean, I know we are built differently, and I'm with you 100% on that. But like, what kinds of things do you think a grandmother could do that you couldn't do?
Maybe, and I don't want to generalize too much. I mean, I'm not the be all and end all of grandpas.
Like, what are some things that a grandmother could do that a grandfather couldn't do?
I think you could draw inference from just sort of the differences in who we are as gender. You have an ability to do one thing or a kind of thing. It's like a Venn diagram. It overlaps. There's some things that both can do, but there's some that women are just they're capable. Your compassion, your sensitivity. That's on one end of the Venn diagram.
Yeah.
The other, my end would be like bug killing, emptying out the trash. I mean, mine can be very functional, and yours can be very relational. And some of mine would be relational. Some of yours would be functional. I mean, a woman's would be functional. But I just think it's sort of a good example of the sort of the 1-2 punch-ness of it all. And I'm not surprised that women, like grandmas, are doing the heavy lifting in the grand adulting. Grand adulting, I've found, is hard. You think adulting's hard. Wait till you grand adult.
Wait till you start grand adulting. I haven't gotten there yet, so I'll let you know when I get there. But I do know, I mean, I think we kind of tend to think that some things like this are kind of a return to the way things used to be. When grandparents are kind of taking more of a responsibility for but that's not really true.
No.
This is kind of this is a new thing.
Really?
I mean, I had great relationships with my grandparents. We didn't live in the same city after the time I was like 7 or 8 years old, but we saw them all the time. They were very involved in our lives, but they didn't never really, I think maybe for like a very, like a brief moment, my mom went back to work for a very short period of time, and my grandmother took care of me for a little while. My mom, though, was very active in taking care of my kids while I worked. And, they mentioned some grandparents are taking on the role of co-parent more and more, which I used to say that about my mom. I mean, she had so much responsibility for my kids, which was great for their relationship with her. I think they love her dearly. They also respect her in a way. I think that the relationship is deeper than it might have been if she hadn't had to do that.
Looking back on my childhood, and my grandmother and my dad's mother did not live in the same city. My mom's mother actually lived with us. She was a traveling grandma. Yeah. She lived maybe a year here and then a year there.
Oh, I would
and then
do
a
that.
year here. Yeah. And so it was a deal where, and we called her Meemaw. And I know when you said that when you moved to the South, we had all these crazy names for grandmas. And why can't it be grandma this and grandma that? And here you are looking at Marnie or Marmee.
No, I'm not. No. That was suggested to me.
Yeah. Anyway.
I have not chosen that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway, mine was Meemaw.
Yeah.
And my grandmother, my mom's mother, lived with us for a period of time. And when it came to nap time, for me, for kids, she would, tell us to go take a nap. And of course we would go and not take a nap. And so Meemaw would stand at the door, like with her hip leaning on one of the door jams, with her arms folded and like just glare at you. And like, like force
it's really
you to,
restful.
Yeah. It's like open one eye. Gosh, she's still there. When is she going to go away? Until you fell asleep. Anyway, so I had some of that experience with my grandma. And then my mom was always very helpful with sometimes picking up the kids from school, things like that. So so it's I like it. My dad he wasn't around for long. He died quite young, so he didn't have a chance to do any of that stuff. But I can see grandma's doing the heavy lifting.
Well, speaking of heavy lifting, that's part of the reason that we need this kind of help more than our parents did. Today's parents, for one thing, they view their kids as needing more supervision. Do you hear many people talk about latchkey kids anymore? There aren't very many.
Is that because we don't want them to go unsupervised, or we think it's a different world, and or is it? I don't know.
It probably is a different world, but also parents don't want their kids to spend time unsupervised at all, especially in those hours after school, which I think we've discovered. There's a good reason for that, especially at a certain age.
Totally.
So grandparents are filling in that role and watching over the kids when the parents aren't able to be there, even when they might be older than we would traditionally think. They would need babysitters. They still need supervision.
I agree.
Still need somebody to be there with them. More eyes on the kids, the better. And grandparents are filling in that role. And then another thing is we're living longer, so we are around for more years to have kids. People are having kids later than their parents are around to help them take care of them.
Amazing.
And I really thought it was fascinating. Also, more single parents, higher child care costs.
True. That's true too.
Do the math.
Yeah.
Grandparents are often in more, like we talked about, more of a co-parent role even than a grandparent role. So again, this was from a piece in the Atlantic. I thought it was very, very interesting.
George Parker Bidder. George Parker Bidder, or as we know him, G.P. Bidder.
Okay.
Of the Marine Biological Association in Plymouth, England.
Tell me more.
He threw 1,000 bottles into the North Sea in batches and had a note in each of them, a message in a bottle. And the postcard read, 1 shilling reward, and in different languages, in German and different languages. Card number 54, for example. Please fill in the blanks on the back of this card and put it in the post. Addressed to already G.P. Bidder.
Okay.
Care of the Marine Biological Association, Plymouth, England. I guess so well known it doesn't need an address. Or maybe in those days it didn't, because he threw that out in 1906. It was discovered, the anniversary of the discovery was this week. It was discovered 108 years later. Think of all the things. So fairly
recently.
Yeah. 2015. Think of what all the things the world had gone through from 1906 until 2015.
And that bottle was just floating.
It was floating, or they think that it sank for part of the time. And then during World War I, the North Sea was churning with traffic.
Incredible.
And there were mines that were put in the water, and the mines would blow up and churn up the bottom of the ocean. And it was found by a couple, the Winklers. Marianne Winkler, I think, is her name. And Marianne Winkler, a German woman, found it. She has been given a reward as promised.
Okay.
1 shilling.
Good for her.
which meant more in 1906
than it did in 2015.
Actually, they stopped making shillings, so somebody had to buy one on eBay or something to give it to her. But when this distinguished marine biologist threw his message in a bottle into the sea, he wasn't expecting a speedy response. which is just as well because it took over 108 years and it became officially confirmed by the Guinness World Records as the oldest such message in the world. I think it has since become the fourth oldest message in the world. The German woman who found it was, in fact, I mentioned, given her reward, but she was walking on the beach with her husband and she happened upon a bottle. And the bottle actually said, "Break this." And so she broke it, followed the directions, and pulled from it the message, and then sent it back in. But it was 108 years later.
So you said that he sent them out in batches,
He did.
though. This was the only one that was ever...
Well, no, I think this was the one that I think some people got their shillings
They
back
did.
when.
So some people found them
he threw
right away.
He threw 1,000 of them out.
Okay,
And
I
this one-
thought you were
this one
saying it took
lasted-
108 years for even one of them
well,
to
maybe.
reach.
I mean, I don't think we know how many of these were returned.
Yeah.
It's reasonable to believe that some of the 1,000 probably were found. They washed up on the shore or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular one either sank to the bottom and then was pushed out to sea, went through World War I, went through World War II. Think about that.
Man, oh man.
I mean, think about all the things that have happened since 1906 to 2015. And so there you go. It's the message in a bottle. Was there a movie called Message in a Bottle?
There was. I
But
was
think
thinking
didn't
of the same
message-
thing.
But didn't the message read, "This movie's terrible"?
You want me to remind you of that story?
Yeah.
30, how many years ago? It was so many years ago. And it was when we were working on the talk show. It was relatively new. Steve Tanner was still working with us. And we finished one evening at 7 o'clock. I think that's when the show was going until 7 o'clock. And we did the things that I did the things that I would do to,
Wrap
finish up the day. And then I was going to see a movie with my mother-in-law. And I was really excited because it was a weeknight. I had young kids. I mean, this was like an evening
treat.
out.
Yeah.
It was a
Nice.
treat.
Nice.
And so the two of you asked me where I was going. And I told you, and I think Robin Wright was in the movie,
That's
maybe
correct.
Kevin Costner.
It is Kevin Costner
it's
for sure.
It's a movie that maybe history has not remembered that well, but at the
Well.
time, it was a really, it was a big deal. And I told you the movie that I was going to see, and the two of you were like 10-year-old boys, and you just bent over laughing. You know what the message in the bottle is going to be? You're not going to see it until the end of the movie, and it's going to be this movie stunk. You were so proud of yourselves.
I just reflecting on a previous topic, even in this scattershoot. We were just trying to be charming.
That's right.
That's all we were trying to do. This week, real quick before we go, this week was it was National Haiku Day, and on the radio, I actually surprised you with some haikus.
You did.
Yeah, it was, to just surprise somebody with a haiku. They don't even know that you're saying a haiku. And just to remind you, a haiku is first 5 syllables, then 7 syllables, and then 5 syllables. Mm-hmm. And actually, that is a haiku
haiku.
That's a haiku that I gave you that tells what a haiku is. First 5 syllables, and then 7 syllables, then 5 syllables. That's a haiku. So we were talking about this week, and happy haiku. I think I started by saying Happy Haiku Day. It's National Haiku Day. So go and write one.
That's a haiku.
That's a haiku. Mm-hmm. Or National Haiku. Told you about that. I'm celebrating. That's a haiku.
That.
So I like doing haikus. I like it.
That's the kind of,
fun.
that's a great dinner table conversation starter. No matter who you're with. If you still have young kids at home, if they're a little bit older, if it's just the two of you, whoever you're spending the evening with. I think that's a great, just write a haiku.
Yeah.
Just write me one haiku.
I love it. We have a group text, some guys, the guys I'm talking about. There are 5 of us in this group text. 2 of them are my brothers, and then 2 of the other ones are some real dear friends from years and years and years. And we had a time where we all just wrote haikus back and forth. So whatever you had to say in a haiku.
Had to be said in a haiku.
Had to say it in a haiku. So you want to talk about what you're going to do, you had to write a haiku. You want to respond to that guy and tell him what you're thinking about that, or you had to write it in a haiku. And it was fun. I always enjoyed writing haikus.
It's a good way. It's a good way to keep your brain active and thinking and involved.
Hope you find us on the radio. All you have to do is download the app for The Light. Just download. You search The Light DFW wherever you get apps. Go to the app place and then just search The Light DFW, and you're going to find the app there. Put it on your mobile device and or your phone or whatever. What are you laughing at there?
You remember what that's from?
Yeah,
my mobile,
terrible murderous.
Wait, no, he didn't say my mobile device. He said my mobile phone.
Yeah, I know.
I'm calling
That's Walker,
you from
Texas Ranger, and Walker, Texas Riley. What was it called? Walker Riley. Walker Rayleigh.
Mixing your
That's right.
your Walkers.
That's right.
Walker Rayleigh.
Oh, such a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh.
Isn't it funny how things like that stick with you?
Yeah. Hey, Peg, this is, I'm calling you from my new mobile. That makes me shudder just thinking about it. Anyway, you download it onto you put it on the iPad.
Sure.
My mom has it on an iPad, and she listens.
No, that's
you know what she
great.
said the other day? She
What?
said something about, I went by and picked her up something, I think from Chick-fil-A. Mm-hmm. She loves Chick-fil-A. Got her some Chick-fil-A, and when I took it into her, she had listened to that morning on the radio, and she said, you didn't want to go by McDonald's and celebrate their anniversary? So she had heard us talk about the McDonald's anniversary. Anyway, if you put it on the mobile device, you put it on your cell phone, you put it on your iPad, whatever, and then you listen to The Light DFW. That's what you search. And it's great music, 24 hours a day. It's awfully fun to do. Lauren and I are with you 5 to 9 in the morning to start your day. And then it just gets great throughout the day.
If you have Apple CarPlay,
I
don't
for sure.
have that. But if you do, it's probably not something that I would even have to tell you. That of course it will also pair with your Apple CarPlay, and you listen. I mean, it's the radio.
Yeah, it is.
It's the radio. It's just
Yeah,
a different, just a little bit different, just a different channel.
So go find it, and also if you get that app, make sure you rate it.
Yes,
because when you rate an app. And by the way, same thing on any of our stuff, Instagram and all that kind of stuff, or the podcast. When you rate those things, you make it easier for the next person to find it. Mm-hmm. So when someone is searching, the more it's rated or responded to or liked or whatever, subscribed to or shared, it bumps it up in the lineup, and it helps other people find it. So, for the Light DFW, do that, or certainly for our things here for the podcast, we appreciate you doing that too. You find us on Instagram, just search Wilder Show Pod, and you'll find us there. If you want to send us an email, we love that. We're so lonely and really enjoy, and we send you notes back too. We sure do.
We do.
Podcast at wildershow.com. Podcast at wildershow.com. The Wilder Show podcast drops Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 a.m. Central Time on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeart, Amazon, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Like, rate, follow, subscribe, and share. We appreciate you being here. Anything else? Is that it?
I think that's it.
All right. We're going to see you next time. Hey, yeah. So they were upset because the stabbing victim's dad showed up uninvited to their press conference. That's rich. Wilder Show podcast, blah, 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 blah. And blah, blah, blah. Thank you. Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go.
Have you ever thought about what it means to be charming?
Sometimes we think of it.
Another one is you make people laugh.
Yeah. Check. You've seen before the power of my absence.
Just...
been a while since I've been in Ms. Wall's class or Worsham or Wilbanks.
My class is ongoing.
Ooh, is it?
I was not as thoughtful as I might have, as I would have liked to have been.
Welcome to my world. That's not as thoughtful as I would like to have been. That's me.